we're back for another episode of the Department Podcast. We're trying to record this for the third time today, basically because Comcast still sucks, my internet is still garbage, and I can still barely hold a Zoom call at times during the day when people are on my Wi-Fi. So, take number 3, and we've had to cut even now Clark out of it because he also got shipped out to San Diego with Jesse. So now it's just me and Joe. What's going on?
Well, there goes the Comcast sponsorship right there.
Yeah, well,
that was while it lasted. Here's the thing. If you can get on the horn, talk to the GM, see if you can work out a deal for a new router and maybe chip in a new sports team while you're working out the deal. I'd be willing to be shipped out if you
as well.
Me for a better router, we'll take it.
Yeah.
But
So the majority of this episode, we'll be covering the trade deadline from Monday, which, quite frankly, a lot more movement of not just like there was only really one big name trade, and that was obviously Celvinger going to the Padres, but there were a lot more kind of depth trades almost here and there, which there were a lot more that I thought they were going to be in general for teams kind of like reinforcing a little bit, not obviously going for the home run ball because we didn't see that too much, but definitely a lot more minor moves here and there that I definitely thought they were going to be.
A lot of depth moves that I think are going to play a big part down the stretch. Teams that really made out well that are not the Padres. Of course, Padres are a different animal. Blue Jays, we'll get into them, but I thought they worked out pretty well. Phillies, not bad moves. Like, it's kind of the fringe teams. The Marlins made an interesting move. It's the teams that weren't supposed to compete this year-ish on the fringe that I think might, have a role if they sneak into a 3-game series. So we'll definitely get into that. I'm looking forward to it. What was weird about this trade deadline, just as a whole, is how there was randomly like other names that started to get thrown in, rumors. It was rumors galore. Like, we didn't hear anything. And then rumors were like Joey Gallo on the move. And it was like, what? And then like, is this when they trade Lindor? It's like we got to pump the brakes here. Yeah. Like it was getting too real too quickly.
Because like it's all like the Clevenger move was honestly prompted by him, breaking the COVID-19 protocol, and Indians were ready to just that was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back with him. But like Gallo out of nowhere, it's like I thought this was Mr. Texas Ranger at that point. Lance Lynn was a question mark because he was on a team friendly deal, but Joey Gallo out of nowhere, and then
Joey Gallo, that whole thing really threw me off, and the fact that they were going to have him go to the Rays, where like it was Gallo to the Rays was like a rumor I heard from a bunch of different sources, and Gallo doesn't even have anywhere to play with the Rays. It was the whole thing really was bizarre. I wasn't expecting any of this. I thought we were just going to see a Clevinger trade, and that was going to be it. I'm really happy though, like because these are moves that I don't think we'd see in a normal year. I don't think we see the Marlins doing this, doing what they did. I don't think we see the Blue Jays doing what they did in a normal year. Even the Reds. You get the extra teams in the playoffs. Look, I think we've both been critical of it. We've both kind of were like, I don't know about all these teams, but it's good for baseball right now that there are guys on the move, especially safe. Safety's a concern. You're trading guys across country.
And, the thing is, too, with the additional teams, that's why we saw, like, the Jays, basically trade for an entire rotation plus Jonathan Villar. The Reds got, Archie Bradley from the Diamondbacks. And you saw teams they were kind of in hot zones still making moves. And we also haven't seen, because we're, 3 days removed almost at this point, no one said, I'm not going there for my safety.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that this is going to be it. I don't think we're going to see anyone else opt out or decide not to play. And hopefully, the coronavirus effect on the 2020 season is over. Hopefully, once the A's get back on the field, Godspeed on that one.
That's not even COVID though. That's the protests going on out in California, I think, right?
I believe it was a member of the Oakland A's organization got COVID-19, and that's why they're not playing. I don't think it was a player. I think it was a member of the organization.
Yeah, just COVID aside too, we haven't seen, other than like the Yankees this past a week or so ago, we haven't seen full teams get wiped out like the Cardinals and the Marlins had.
No, it's a while. They've only missed a weekend, a few games. So this is a big improvement. I like where that's going.
So before we take a deep dive into the trade deadline, because Joe and I we enjoy talking about the minutia of stuff like that. You enjoy numbers more than I do. But the next chapter in the Yankees-Rays rivalry was written by the time we're recording this last night when Aroldis Chapman lost a little bit of control and throw at Mike Brosseau's head. This has been going on since, 2018, I believe?
Yeah.
Basically when Romine got thrown at or hit, and then CC threw at Jesus Sucre saying, "That one's for you, bitch." So at this point, this is just the next chapter. Now, Kevin Cash basically threatened the Yankees, saying he's got a bunch of people that can throw 98. Get ready if, someone throws inside then.
What a classless quote right there by Kevin Cash. Absolutely disgraceful. Honestly, not only should he be, I think he should be suspended for his comments, but I'm Manfred, I'm talking about some sort of ban. I don't know if it's a lifetime ban. I don't know if it's just eliminate them from playoff contention. But something has to be done because Kevin Cash can't make those comments.
The way I would play it, because you can't just outright ban a team, even though, yes, it was a legitimate threat. We saw how they protected the Astros and, banished Joe Kelly to the nether realms for the season for 8 games for basically not even hitting anybody, right?
Baseball Siberia, they threw him in.
At this point, for the game tonight, I would issue a warning to both sides and just say, if anyone gets hit, regardless, you're being suspended. And if you guys come out of the dugout, even more suspensions for longer. Because we saw them go overboard and protect the Astros. So at this point, just ramp up the punishment just as a deterrent from both sides. And if the Rays, throw first, then there should be suspensions issued. And oddly enough, they have Charlie Morton on the mound, who leads the league since 2013 or whatever, with 43 hit batters. So we kind of know where they're going at that point.
No, I completely agree. The problem here is that everyone's going to the ballpark. Everyone's going to tune in to Fox Sports Southwest or wherever the Rays play, and everyone's going to tune into Yes Network. And if the game's national, everyone's going to tune in knowing that someone's going to get plunked. That someone on either the Yankees or the Rays is going to get thrown at, and it's not a bad look. It is a bad look for baseball. I'm not going to beat around the bush, but in a way, it's you need conflict. You like beef. You like rivalries.
That's the thing.
I go crazy over things. I love it.
We grew up, we were younger, but when it was prime 04, Red Sox, Yankees, when they absolutely hated each other.
Oh, yeah.
And really from then on out, we've kind of seen blood rivalries of just pure hatred between teams kind of die out.
Yeah, unless the Cincinnati Reds are a different story. I don't know what goes on in Cincinnati.
They just piss off everybody.
Yeah, other than the Reds, you got 29 teams who are pretty much by the book. But what I like the Astros being the villain. I love it. I love conflict. I think people like this stuff because
you're a pot stirrer.
The pot being stirred is just, it's such a feeling because when you're watching the game and you kind of have something to hate. Everyone loves to hate LeBron. Everyone just goes hate the Patriots. It makes the sport more enjoyable in a kind of a sick way. I guess that's just how people are programmed. Everyone needs a villain.
Well, it's just an added amount of competitiveness to each game then because, the teams are more invested a lot more in beating that team then because they hate them rather than it's just the W in the win column.
Listen to this. Forget 2020. 2021. With everything we know right now, think about the fact that we are blessed to watch 19 games with the Yankees and the Rays and 19 games of the Padres versus the Dodgers. How great is that for baseball?
Well, that's the thing. The rivalry then brings in ratings, and that's
exactly.
what you need. Now, if you hate somebody, if you have a problem with people in baseball, if you're gonna throw at them, go thigh to above the knee. Don't go above the ribs. Don't crack a rib. Don't break a bone. Don't aim for the head.
You get Kittredge throwing at Romine's head. That's 3 years ago. It's still there, bro. And Cashman.
No, I understand.
Cash acknowledged that it was on purpose. His sound.
He basically said he's since then we haven't intentionally thrown at somebody. So it's so you're saying you did then?
It's not better. It's not better for him to just come out and say that.
No, but here's because. Baseball, the unwritten rules and all that stuff. If you're going to throw at somebody, just don't go above the belt for me, honestly. Keep it in the thigh, hit him in the ass, hit him in the back, call it a day. Don't go for the head where you can permanently injure somebody.
I mean, I get that. I completely understand. And I don't think that we're going to see someone's head being thrown at today. I really think that that's in a part of the unwritten rules of baseball. But let's talk about Chapman for a second. Chapman is as far away from, I think, the rest of the team as one player could possibly be. You get the sense that Aroldis Chapman is kind of in his own little island. He's kind of, you know, himself. Like there's the team, and then Aroldis Chapman's just sitting in the corner in the bullpen. So I just don't really know how intentional it was. He could not locate for squad.
Well, that's the thing. You're never going to confuse Aroldis Chapman with Greg Maddux. You know, like he doesn't have the control of a great, like he's a flamethrower. He throws hard and it ends up where it ends up. You know, if it was say high and maybe went behind him but didn't go near Brosso's head, maybe we don't see the benches come out a little bit. But I think just because he located it and it ended up higher was the issue that triggered both sides. Intentional or not, it's just the placement of the pitch.
And I think this is where we're really going to see who the leaders are on the Rays and the Yankees. Both very young teams, both a lot of teams that haven't really gelled together. The cores have not been together for over 3 years on either squad. So I really think that we're going to see who steps up, who are the guys that, first of all, are willing to stand up for their team and throw the ball, hit the Yankee in the back. And then who on the Yankees is going to, be willing to stand up and take charge and be, the first line of defense.
And I wonder which team's ballsy enough to fire the first shot, especially if like a warning comes down from the umpires, from Manfred, from the off, who's going to take that risk then at that point?
As a fan, you just want the game to not be close. If you get a 4-run or more lead on either side, that's when we're going to see fireworks.
Yeah.
I think if it's like we're tied at 2 after like 3 innings and nothing's happened yet, you can just call it. You kind of you're gonna need a little bit of a cushion. You're not gonna do this in a one.
You need to be able to afford putting on a base runner at that point, essentially.
If I'm the Yankees, I watch out for Adam Ottavino tonight because this guy can't locate for squad, and he's gonna end up accidentally getting someone killed.
Well, that's the problem. It's like, what happens if someone just loses control of a pitch and it rides in on somebody?
Well, that could be benefit hitters. If you get a situation where both sides are being warned very early in the game, then all of a sudden the inside part of the plate's basically off limits for every pitcher. So this could result in some short porch home runs for righties when they're throwing the ball away.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this the last time that the Rays and Yankees play before a potential, if they line up in the postseason then? Yeah,
this is it for them. So if something's going to happen, it's going to happen now, and the players know it. Players know that if the Rays are going to avenge Mikey Brosseau, it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting time. But let's work our way back to the trade deadline. Initial thoughts: the winners obviously are the San Diego Padres, since they did go in on basically every single player who was available, and it seemed like they honest to God made a trade with basically every single team in baseball. Bringing on Celvinger, Nola, Mitch Moreland, and so forth. They're going all in, and this is honestly their year to do it because of the shortened season.
If you're the Padres, you gotta respect it. How long were they going to keep up building this farm system? It's about time. They've checked off all the boxes. So they've spent money when they've had to spend money, and you got to commend them for that. They, made the change at manager when the time came. All that was really left to do is make these trades to supplement that rotation. Trevor Rosenthal, the first move that they made, is a threat out of the bullpen. The guy, you talk about you bring up Chapman. Trevor Rosenthal was Chapman before Chapman and has been.
Yeah.
The guy is he's who you want in a big game. He's got experience. He's been around for a long time. I really like that. And the fact now that what they'll be able to do potentially is put Celvinger at the 1 and have him start game 1. And what that could do is that you're going to get a situation where in a 3-game series, you could have Chris Paddock out of the bullpen. Now think about that for a second. Now if they go, say, Clevinger, Lamet, and then Davies. 1, 2, 3. And you throw Paddock out of the bullpen. I don't know if they would, but
It gives them a cushion just
scaring
in
me.
case. It gives them
Scaring me.
options.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, I like that a lot.
Because for a while, especially last year, Paddock seemed to be the frontline ace they've been looking for since God knows how long. And then they go on and add Mike Clevinger, which at this point, they have 2.5 years of control left of Clevinger in his prime because he's only 30. So they'll have him through his 32-year-old season if they don't re-sign him. So they're giving him, two legitimate aces to work with. And then Davies and Lamet, if they really, they can always bring Davies out of the pen then more so in a 3-game series.
I mean, it really depends because so if they want to go 3 starters, what they could easily do, Clevinger and Lamet are the easy 1-2 starters, I think. And then the question goes, do you want Davies or Paddock coming out of the bullpen? And if you get Paddock, who has not been as good as Davies this year, his stuff could translate really, really well. And Davies also has been there. And speaking of Davies, the trade that it's still I don't think we put a lot of emphasis at this at the time, but for them to get Zach Davies and Trent Grisham in the deal with the Brewers,
oh my God,
a leasing of epic proportions.
Trent Grisham has filled into the role of when Tommy Pham left when he got hurt perfectly.
Exactly, and then they don't even skip a beat trading away Hunter Renfroe because Jake Cronenworth's bat in the lineup. We're talking about an NL Rookie of the Year. So the moves that they've made, I believe Cronenworth was a trade too that they received. I don't
think
remember.
so.
I think they did trade. Oh, he came over for Renfroe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There it is. So they've hit on every move, and trust me, Austin Nola this year, we haven't really seen him that much in the big leagues. Kind of a late bloomer. The guy can hit. The guy can hit.
At this point, you look at Taylor Trammell, who's a very good prospect, and they gave up 4 players, sent him out to Seattle. But at that point, if you're not going to use the players in your farm system, you may as well unload them to things that can help you right away.
Absolutely. And I really like Hedges is a disaster.
Yeah, he was not good.
Hedges was it was like in Mean Girls when they say stop trying to make fetch happen. The Padres, it's about time they stopped letting Hedges happen. The guy below average at the dish, and it's not like his defensive metrics were otherworldly. It was just them just giving this guy way too many chances.
And looking at it, obviously, immediately in the future, right now, it impacts them right away. But realistically, getting Clevinger, it puts a timestamp on them going all in for about 2 years before reevaluating where they are.
The problem with the Padres is that it's not going to affect them this year. But what scares me about a team who is second best, or at least not the best team in their division, is that they are going to need an ace. You know what because if you are the Padres, realistically, you know that the Dodgers have a stranglehold on that division for the next 4 years. That's just how it is. So that means your only path is to the wild card game. You get it. So a team like the Nationals can win
because they have 3 legitimate aces.
Exactly. They can win a World Series as a wild card team because they have that ace. We hope it could be Paddock. Clevinger
could be, maybe. Realistically, honestly, I could see them going in on Trevor Bauer because he wants a 1-year deal, and he could be the frontline guy they need.
Trevor and Mike back together again. Those two dudes. I like that. I like their chemistry, and it would be fun. It would be fun.
Yeah, but I think because if they say Clevinger does take the next step and he is that ace, they don't have to pay him for 2 years.
Ridiculous.
And even at that point, then you don't have to pay Tatis Jr. for another 4 after that because he still has 5 years of control really. So and they don't really have to pay anyone else. So money wise,
they already paid Machado
because Machado's paid. Hosmer's on the back end of that deal because I think he only signed like a 4 or 5 year deal, maybe, I think.
I thought that was much longer. I thought it was like a 7-year deal.
Was it? I don't know. But Myers' deals are coming up because that thing was just necessary back in the day when they were looking for money. But even then, they're not tied deep to a lot of players.
No, absolutely not. Another guy, Ty France, young kid, just got the call. Big fan. They traded him away, but it's like these guys just know exactly what buttons to press.
And they're pushing them all at the right time.
Mitch Moreland coming over from Boston.
Yeah, he's been one that he's been hitting righty pitchers phenomenally this season, so he's going to be a great DH for him.
It's going to be a great piece in the playoffs. I love it. I really do love it.
They basically took every hole they had and filled it with above and beyond caliber play that you would think they would get at the deadline for this year at least.
The problem is that they're just not better then.
Yeah. They filled holes, but does it put them over the top? I don't know. You know, that's the hard part to kind of evaluate. It definitely helps their chances going up against the Dodgers, but does it put them over the Dodgers? I don't think so.
It's tough. I mean, it's going to be a good series. I really hope they end up playing each other.
So a team I want to shift next to of surprising proportion are the New York Yankees. They didn't add anybody. Not even, we weren't thinking they were going for the home run ball, big superstar like a Lindor or whoever. But they didn't even add, smaller depth pieces. So this is Cashman rolling with who he's got at this point.
I get it. I get the concern. But if there is a time, first of all, you can praise the Padres all night long. Love them to death. The Padres had a much better farm system than the New York Yankees did and do. The Padres had the ability to make all these moves and not make a dent. If the Yankees made even a depth move, it would have cost them significantly to their farm system in ways that I don't think the Padres, would have to worry about, or even another team like the Marlins making a trade. The issue here is that it's going to look like it's a bad look. Second year in a row. They don't do anything. Yada, yada, yada. Paxton on the shelf. Didn't even replace Canely. I get that. But if there was ever a year to not go deep at a trade deadline, it would be this one.
But the issue that
I'm
having
anyway.
Well, that's the thing. You don't have to worry about the playoffs. But the issue is who's going to be on the roster by the time you get to the playoffs, because health has been an issue for the Yankees. So how do you just not bring in just somebody as just an insurance policy? Bring him in for either cash or a player to be named later and figure it out later of who you're sending. How do you not even
right now? But that's not a guarantee that it will be after. Will be by the time it's the playoffs. Everything could be okay by the time they get to the best case scenario is that the offense is fine. We're not going to have to worry about that. And they have a plethora of young pitchers. And if one of them steps up, David Garcia looked great against the Mets. Clark Schmidt has looked great when we have seen him. It's very possible that they can get by.
Okay.
But this wouldn't be the year. This would not be the year to go all in. I think the year to go all in would be when you are almost guaranteed that one seed and you just need one supplementary piece to put you over the edge and everyone's healthy. Also, last year, the Yankees got ripped apart for not making a deal at the deadline because the Astros went out and got Zach Greinke. This year, the Rays, the Twins, the White Sox, the Indians got worse, the Astros, and the Athletics all really stood pat. The A's got Mike Minor, fine, but their opponents in the AL did not get better. So,
I mean, even Tampa to an extent, they didn't really do. They kind of just shipped out. They shipped out pieces, if anything.
Yeah.
So, another team in New York, they made a few head-scratching moves, to say the least, where the New York Mets, and basically at this point, which I think is Brody's last stand at trying to save his job by the time Steve Cohen comes in and cleans house. They brought in Robinson Chirinos, Miguel Castro, and they brought back Todd Frazier for the second time. What in the hell do any of these moves accomplish? Chirinos, maybe a better defensive catcher than Wilson Ramos. Offensively, not so much. Todd Frazier, why did you need another infielder when you have J.D. Davis back just to DH anyway? And Miguel Castro, he is in the Fernando Rodney tier of relievers where when he's on, he is lights out but can't come in to save an inning when there's runners on base. And when he is bad, he is god-awful and is very impressive when he blows it.
Oh my goodness, the Mets. It's this is my this is what I'm saying. Like, is what the Mets did? Yeah, the Mets made trades and the Yankees didn't. But is this seriously better? Would you seriously rather have Chirinos, Frazier, and Castro, and give up whatever they gave up? I don't even know what they gave up. We'll go one by one. We'll go one by one. So Miguel Castro is the move I like the best. It's a major league reliever. They needed a major league reliever. He's got good stuff, but
he kind of fits the role of all the other relievers in the Mets bullpen. Edwin Diaz, very iffy. Dellin Betances is very iffy. Seth Lugo got exiled out of the bullpen to the starting rotation, which was a huge mistake. They have a bunch of relievers where they're hit or miss every single night. And if the Mets are trying to salvage their season, you don't add another one of those relievers.
You don't add another one of those relievers. You don't. Because Miguel Castro has more of potential to hurt you than help you, I think.
Yeah. I've watched him for 4 years in Baltimore. People ask me what I think of this trade. I'll put it this way. I was happy that he just got traded, and I don't even care what we got back. Just because he's more of a hindrance because he can't come in with a runner on because he'll either plunk the batter or walk him and then give up a 3-run home run.
He's got the fastball. He's got movement. That's
his issue. His issue is he can't locate his fastball half the time, so there's too much movement. And he puts runners on.
Yeah, and that's the move I like the best, and I don't like it. So that should tell you a lot.
And then Robinson Chirinos, you add a better defensive catcher, but at that point you're taking out Wilson Ramos's bat, which is still slightly better, even though it's not been as productive. And then Todd Frazier, you're just adding a logjam of people. And now I think they sent Andres Jimenez down, who's actually been one of the bright spots for the Mets defensively because no one else can play defense on that team.
So, yeah, what Todd Frazier's going to do is going to take at-bats away from guys you want to see, Davis, Jimenez, even Alonso at times, Conforto. It's ridiculous. This one I'm never going to understand. Todd Frazier's taking the bat away from people who are better. Todd Frazier's not that good for the clubhouse. Todd Frazier is – I don't know why, but people like to keep him around. Todd Frazier is a disaster. He's a disaster. And Robinson Chirinos, this does nothing. Nito and Ramos were fine back. That was not the problem with the Mets.
But Nito got put on the IL, I think, for something. But it's like, what are you gonna do when he comes back? Then are you gonna carry 3 catchers then at that point? And combined, they all do different things, and none of them do anything well. And then you have to send someone else down.
They get rid of Nito. I think they might have gotten rid of Nito, which is bizarre because I think he was the one that got COVID. I think that there might have been some weird mess.
Yeah, because they didn't. Let's look at that. Thomas.
I don't want to. I hate to speculate, but I like.
Well, when a player doesn't say what they have and they kind of just disappear, it's kind of assumed at this point that it's COVID.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the Mets were in talks with Christian Vasquez about getting Christian Vasquez, and then
that would have been a lot better than
that would have made so much more sense.
Because at least he's putting up offensive numbers as a catcher this year, and he's a good defensive catcher as well.
Exactly. I mean, it's just sad. This doesn't do anything, doesn't move a single needle. It's just a waste of time.
And, at this point, you have to assume Brody knows he's gone, right? He's
gone. It's all but signed off. They spelled his name wrong in the press release. Enjoy.
Yeah, they don't care anymore. So Brody's he's pulling at straws. And another team quickly that I want to get into, if I don't really know what the hell they're doing, are the Colorado Rockies. They added Kevin Pillar and Michael Givens. Why?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't really get this one. I mean, Pillar is kind of a need. The center field has kind of been a black hole for them for as long as since really Carlos Gonzalez left. So I guess I like the Pillar move. I think he'll hit really well over there in Coors, but
Givens from Baltimore, same thing.
It's the same thing as Castro.
It's the same thing where when he's been on this year as a setup guy, but I assume they're bringing in him to almost be their closer. But he's also a fly ball pitcher in Coors Field. A fly ball lands 450 dead center. So
yeah, you can't be a fly ball pitcher in Colorado.
So that's the more questionable moves, just depth pieces. The Rangers get Mike Minor. The Rangers traded Mike Minor to the A's, so we kind of assumed that, like with his contract, he was getting moved anyway, regardless.
Yeah, it seems like the Rangers put asking prices really high on a lot of their guys, but Mike Minor, no needles being moved. I mean, the A's are still going to be the A's.
The Blue Jays get Robbie Ray, Ross Stripling, Tajon Walker. They added.
I like it. It's good. It's good rotation depth, eating innings, and I think, and I mean, out of all the three guys that they got, I think Robbie Ray could be the one that has the best potential for him.
God, he puts runners on at an insane amount though between hits and walks. Though he can, that is brutal.
Blue Jays don't really like strikeout guys. It was very interesting that they got Robbie Ray because all the pitching moves that they love, the Ryus, the Stromans, they don't like those guys who,
they're all pitch to contact pitchers.
I love pitch to contact. So that's why Robbie Ray, very interesting. Taylor Walker kind of fits their mold a little bit better. That's a nice move for them.
And also additionally, they added Jonathan VR, so that just that'll plug their shortstop issue with Bo Bichette being on the IL for almost the rest of September, I think. And,
I like that.
Yeah, when you were rolling out Joe Panic to play shortstop, obviously you had a glaring issue. But VR, he gives him, a switch hitting bat.
He's such a Blue Jay.
What?
Slaps the ball in play, will steal 2 bags, kind of, an aggressor.
And it's funny because VR throughout the course of his career, he's always been a good player on bad teams.
Yeah.
He was on Houston when they were bad. He got traded to Milwaukee when they were bad. He got traded to Baltimore when they were bad. And then he was on Miami, who, all intents and purposes, were bad up until this season where they're okay right now. So it's finally nice to see that he's on a team that's, moving in the right direction with him.
No, and I think the Blue Jays are gonna do great. I think they're a good, solid team this year.
And it also gives them a little bit more of a defined leadoff hitter, considering they are running out Kevin Biggio and then Randall Grichuk 1 and 2 in their lineup. So it just gives it.
Even though I don't love Jonathan VR hitting leadoff.
Yeah.
He's a low on base percentage. He's a traditional leadoff hitter. They'll like that because they're a traditional team.
The Reds, Brian Goodwin, Archie Bradley, we slightly talked about it, but it gives them another bullpen arm and an outfielder. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing. The total dud. Whatever.
And then you also have the Chicago Cubs trading for Andrew Chafin and Josh Osich. Same thing, just kind of gives you pitching depth.
Yeah. No, I like that. Especially if you are, the Cubs, who, their biggest issue is that they have not had pitching depth for the past, few years. Osich, I like a little bit better than Chafin, but neither of them are going to really be big moves. I do wonder if they're gonna maybe run Osich out there as a starter. We're gonna see, but right now it's just Jeremy Jeffries has been amazing back end of that bullpen, but getting the ball to him has been kind of a disaster. So we'll see where they slot him in.
Yeah, and then finally, probably the biggest where did that move come from out of left field, basically, were the Miami Marlins trading for Starling Marte, who's been a great player. But this is a guy who the Diamondbacks, who are extremely disappointing this season, they gave up legitimate talent for in the deal with the Pirates. And now the Marlins, who are close to the playoffs, get him. It's a guy they can put on a billboard almost at that point.
To replace, I guess, VR after they traded him as a top of the lineup, speedster, it's an upgrade. What's crazy is that's probably the best position player to change sides in this trade deadline, and he went to the Miami Marlins. You got to give credit where credit's due. I really like the fact that they're going to add a veteran like Starling Marte in the middle of that lineup. It adds some legitimacy to Miami that I don't think they had.
Well, because when you have your your Coopers, your Andersons, and just kind of no-name players just kind of on the Marlins, this gives a guy who they can rally around. And honestly, they might re-sign him just to have some form of face of the franchise player that could sell jerseys that's somewhat of a household name.
Oh, absolutely. No, I completely agree.
So those are all of the kind of important and, top, not top tier, but definitely the more impactful trades of the deadline. Who do you think?
Legitimate moves.
What?
The real legitimate moves.
Yeah, the ones that actually might impact the team of who acquired or sent a player away. So for you, who do you think was the winner of the deadline?
Who won the deadline? I mean, other than
Other than the Padres.
the Padres, of course. I mean, Miami. Really? I mean, you like it's really important. It doesn't seem important, but for legitimacy purposes, the fact that they were able to add a superstar like that, it kind of shows that the Marlins are a little bit for real. No, I'm a big Starling Marte guy. I think it's very interesting.
Definitely the Marte move is good. Just like I said before,
The best hitter. He comes in and he's our best
he's
hitter.
he's their best player.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
and it gives them something to build around because when you build a team, you want to build up the middle for the most part. Catcher, shortstop, center fielder type of thing, defensively at least. And he's a good defensive glove, good hitter, and it just gives them something to build around. So maybe they're kind of done with the complete teardown of the Giancarlo, Yelich, Ozuna team era, and this is kind of maybe their first way of moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, who do you got as your winner?
Kind of honestly, the Blue Jays. When you think about it, they added the rotation depth that they needed. Like you said, they're not aces, they're not strikeout artists, but they'll eat innings and they'll win you games more than they'll lose you games at that point. And the addition of VR is a nice depth piece, especially for the Blue Jays. They're a young team and they're on the cusp of potentially making the playoffs with the expanded 8 teams. So they were good low risk, high reward potential moves for the Blue Jays where if it pays off, it could get them in the playoffs. If it doesn't burn you too much.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the loser is the Mets, honestly, for me. Just because the moves, they gave up assets for players that just don't move the needle. And quite frankly, it just makes the roster a lot more jammed with a lot of players that do similar things. And you can't really have any options outside of that defensively. Because when you look at Frazier, he's either DH, third base, or first baseman. There goes Alonso, Dom Smith, J.D. Davis, and even Jeff McNeil at that point, who are getting impacted right away by Todd Frazier. You get a logjam at catcher, and you add another questionable bullpen arm with Miguel Castro to replace essentially Seth Lugo.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with the Rays as a loser. They should have done something. I think they needed an extra bat, maybe even, someone to get behind the dish. But I mean, they're still the Rays. They're still a great team. I agree that the Mets have no clear direction as a franchise, and then those trades were super embarrassing. I still got to go with Tampa though, because Tampa, unlike the Mets, I think Tampa had more urgency to make a move, more of a need, more of like a this is our time to go all in. I'm a little disappointed. I mean, I'm happy as a fan of an American League team, but it's disappointing because I think the Rays could have really, put some distance between themselves and the rest of the American League East.
Yeah, no, especially because they're 5 games up on the Yankees?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they added like a legitimate bat to like a better bat to that lineup or even a pitcher, bullpen or starter, they really could have put themselves over the top and potentially ran away with the East then.
Yeah, it would have been over.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, anything else in the world of baseball you want to talk about? What's on your mind, Joe?
I mean, on my mind right now is just the San Francisco Giants. I'm impressed with them. I mean, 25 runs last night they put up in Colorado. I mean, they've been playing some really good baseball, like low key.
And this was a team
going to do anything big this season, but it's been interesting to watch.
You kind of look at that tier of teams where we thought they were going nowhere fast. The Orioles, the Marlins, the Tigers, the Giants, the bottom feeders of the MLB who are really, in the basement of a rebuild. A lot of them are kind of clicking at the right time. And the Giants especially, Mike Yastrzemski has turned into
unbelievable,
a fantastic ball player.
Unbelievable. Wilmer Flores has been outstanding for them this year. I don't know. I like the Giants. I still think that they're way past a window. But they're not the boring team. I expected them to be just a boring, lifeless team. So I mean, young Mike Yastrzemski's
Well, that's the thing. When you look at the team, it was Buster Posey opted out. They traded Brandon Belt. They DFA'd Hunter Pence. And really, when they were really just running out Brandon Crawford and Evan Longoria, what did you think you were going to get from them? And they've stayed competitive.
And Brandon Belt, what a year. Donovan Solano, the guy not hitting 400 anymore, but there was talks of him being like a 400 guy this year.
It's amazing that they're doing it with Gabe Kapler.
I know, somehow,
some way, they're being successful with him.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously wasn't gonna be the difference this year between the playoffs and no playoffs, but I like what that offense has done.
Now, at the same time, you don't want this to get too good for them because they are at the early stages of a rebuild where they're still tearing down, the remnants of that dynasty era they had. So, but what's one more playoff run in a, short year like that? It won't hurt, but it definitely doesn't help long term. But definitely,
no, it doesn't help long term. But I think what they're going to do is we're going to see maybe some guys' value go up. I think Gausman might be a guy that they end up trading at some point. He was rumored over the deadline. I mean, maybe if they could try to get Cueto off the books, I mean, that would be
even Samardzij's contract too.
Yeah. Even if a team wants a guy like Brandon Belt, who's really hitting the ball well this year, he might have gotten his value up. So maybe this could be a good thing. Maybe value is going up.
Well, and that's the thing too, because it puts them in the potential playoffs, and it gives the fans something to enjoy. Because my team in Baltimore is kind of doing a similar thing where, we thought they would get smacked around by every single team, and they're winning games. And I'm enjoying it at this point. But at the same time, with every good thing comes a bad thing where, you're moving further away from a potential good prospect, and you're extending the potential of the rebuild.
No, absolutely.
The Giants haven't even hit the basement of the rebuild. They're still on the decline, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm watching them already up 2-0 in the first inning off Kyle Freeland.
Yastrzemski had another home run.
Yeah, so, no, and their fan base deserves a lot. I mean, they, you can call them spoiled, 3 rings, 5 years, but they have been a really good fan base for a long time in San Francisco.
So, before we wrap up, what teams do you think are getting into the playoffs? Do you think anyone's sneaking in who's on the bubble right now? Anyone dropping out? Like, how do you think the playoff picture is going to end?
Okay. So as of right now, I think that the top 4 seeds in both leagues are pretty much a lock. It's going to be the Braves. You're going to get the Cubs. You're going to get the Dodgers, and you're going to get the Padres. I think we're going to see Philadelphia usurp Miami, and I think they're going to get that number 2 spot in the NL East.
Yeah.
In the Central, it's been tough, but it's been tough for all the teams, really. I mean, what a disaster outside of the Cubs. Even the Cubs lately, though, not too great.
Well, when the Pirates take basically a whole half a month off, the Pirates were going nowhere fast to begin with. The Reds were, I don't want to say they were a bad team, but the Reds kind of
disappointing.
Yeah, they started off really good, really hot. You had Sonny Gray, Trevor Bauer, who were lights out. Castellanos was almost NL MVP, a front runner. And really, they've kind of all just slowed down and kind of plateaued.
So, okay, what I think is going to happen, I think San Francisco is going to drop out of the playoff push. And I think we're going to see Philly as probably our 5 seed. We're going to get St. Louis as our 6 seed. And then 7-8. 7-8 is tough, but I think Milwaukee's going to hang in there. And I think we're going to see Miami take a playoff spot.
Wow. And who knows? That's where the Marte move could pay off for him if he gets them into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, if Miami keeps rolling, I really think they have a shot here. Because the rest of the teams outside of Miami, we could see either Cincinnati, the Mets, or the Giants. And I think Miami's playing the best ball out of all of them.
Yeah.
But I watch out for Philadelphia. They're on the up and up.
Well, and especially with Philadelphia, Joe, me and you've talked about it many times that they were such a disappointment with what they've brought in, where just, veterans who you thought could play, they really just didn't accomplish anything. But now they've started to turn that around.
Yeah, no, there's definitely been a switch being flipped, and I think the offense for Philadelphia is really, really good right now. I'd be afraid to face them.
Yeah. What do you got in the AL?
The AL, Rays, Yankees, locks. I predicted before the season that we were going to see a tie between the Indians and the Twins in that Central Division, and we're going to see a tie. But it looks like the White Sox and the Indians or the Twins, like we could see some form of that because they've all been neck and neck. So that's 5 easy. Oakland, Astros, easy. So I mean, really, it's pretty much locked in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going to see Rays, Yankees, Blue Jays, White Sox, Indians, Twins, Astros, A's. I think that's it. I think that's our playoff pick. Bye-bye, Baltimore.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see where they'll end up because kind of like even with the weird season we have now, the trade deadline's usually like the barometer of where you see the kind of playoff picture end up.
Yeah, so I think the Orioles are done. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I enjoy the early draft picks.
It was fun while it lasted. Though, right?
I enjoyed it. It was a good run. They had a fun July and August, but that's about it.
That's it.
Well, that's probably it. That's all the time we have for the podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Clark made a TikTok. Okay. But just make sure you follow everything and subscribe. We'll be back later in the week. Episode will probably drop on Friday, where Jesse and Clark will be back with us, and we'll talk about the NBA playoffs. And then later in the week, Joe, you won't be with us because you care less about wrestling, but we'll have a wrestling recap as well. So thanks for listening.